They said humans couldn't survive love beyond species, beyond time itself. But when Captain Jae-Min Han, a 29-year-old human engineer, was forced to marry an alien empress 33 years older than him, everyone expected disaster. A political pawn, a reluctant groom, a man surrounded by beings who saw him as fragile, primitive, doomed. Yet no one predicted what came next, how this human would rewrite the fate of 2 galaxies, all in the name of loyalty, courage, and something far more dangerous, love. Hey, if stories about human courage, love, and defiance against the stars pull you in, then you're in the right place. Hit like, tap subscribe, and share this with someone who still believes humanity is more than biology. It's legend. Now, let's dive into the impossible marriage that changed everything. The wedding hall floated among the clouds of Clithera 9, a planet wrapped in violet storms and rings of diamond dust. For most humans, it was a place of myth, off-limits, unreachable. But for Captain Jae-Min Han, it was his prison of vows. The air shimmered with alien perfumes and golden mist. Thousands of beings from across 3 galaxies gathered, their eyes reflecting 1,000 shades of disapproval. In their view, this human, this fragile creature from Earth, was about to defile a royal bloodline. He stood straight, his face unreadable. Beneath the formal armor of the Terran diplomatic corps, his pulse hammered like a war drum. At the other end of the hall she entered, Empress Vey'ara Thall, ruler of the Orinth Dominion. Her appearance silenced the crowd. She was tall, statuesque, with iridescent silver skin that glowed faintly under the hall's bioluminescent lights. Her eyes, vast, ancient, violet, seemed to pierce through dimensions themselves. And yet, to Jae-Min, there was something human in them, something tired, something lonely. When the ceremonial voice echoed, he repeated the words he barely understood. The translator embedded in his collar hummed softly, translating the alien vows into Terran standard. Each word bound him to her, by treaty, by law, and by fate. Do you, human of Sul, pledge yourself to the Empress of Orinth? He hesitated. The audience leaned forward, hungry for humiliation. I do, he said quietly. The hall erupted, not in applause, but in whispers. 1,000 species witnessed the most unnatural union in history. That night, silence filled the imperial chambers. The Empress stood by the window, staring out into the storm-lit horizon. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm, melodic, but cold. You hate this, don't you? Jae-Min didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the strange constellations outside, the galaxies that now considered him a pawn. I didn't have a choice, he said. Earth doesn't have the luxury of saying no. Her eyes turned to him, sharp as glass. No one forced you to live, she said. Many would have chosen death over this shame. He smirked faintly. Humans are stubborn. We choose life, even when it hurts. Something flickered in her expression, a crack in her perfect composure. Perhaps curiosity, perhaps respect. Days turned to weeks. The Empress rarely spoke, and when she did, it was with command and distance. Her people watched her every move, waiting for her to reject this strange husband publicly. But Jae-Min didn't behave like the others expected. He didn't grovel. He didn't fear her. Instead, he asked questions. Why was the Orinth Empire always at war? Why did they fear emotion? Why did they call humans the reckless species? At first, she ignored him. But humans have a way of wearing down even empires, with words, with persistence, with warmth that breaks the coldest walls. And so one evening, when the storms raged outside, Vey'ara spoke. My people do not marry for love, she said quietly. We marry to preserve bloodlines, power, control. He tilted his head. And what about you? What do you marry for? Her silence was louder than the thunder. As months passed, rumors began to spread. Some said the Empress was softening. Others said the human was dangerous. In truth, both were right. Vey'ara began to study him. The way he smiled even under pressure. The way he treated servants as equals. The way he laughed at things no Orinth would ever find amusing. He carried something she had long forgotten, a warmth alien to her kind. "You humans," she murmured one night. "You burn so easily. You live so short, yet so intensely. Why?" He looked up at her, eyes calm, voice soft. "Because we know we don't have forever." And for the first time in her long reign, the Empress looked away. When Jae-Min saved her life, everything changed. A delegation from the Zerath Collective, bitter rivals of the Orinth, had come to the palace under the guise of peace. During the banquet, a weapon detonated, an energy pulse meant for the Empress. Without thinking, Jae-Min threw himself between her and the blast. His armor shattered, his body burned, but he stood firm, shielding her until guards intervened. When he collapsed, she caught him, something no Orinth monarch had ever done for anyone. "You fool," she whispered, voice trembling. "Why would you do this?" He smiled weakly. "Because you're my wife." Her heart, cold and ancient, stumbled for the first time in decades. For days he drifted between life and death in the healing chambers. She stayed by his side, her empire stunned. The Empress, who once ruled galaxies without emotion, now refused to leave the bedside of a single dying human. When he finally woke, her voice broke the silence. "Your world breeds impossible creatures," she said softly. "Creatures that make gods question themselves." He chuckled faintly. "We just call them people." That night, under the storms of Clithera 9, she whispered words no one thought she could say. Maybe the legends about humanity were true. War was coming. The alliance between the Orinth Dominion and the Terran Confederacy, sealed by a single scandalous marriage, was collapsing. Across the galaxies, ancient powers whispered that the Empress had been corrupted by her human husband. They called him the infection from Sol, a virus of empathy, a contagion of chaos. But inside the palace, something far stranger was happening. The Empress who once ruled with logic now ruled with compassion. The court that once trembled before her now saw her hesitate before passing judgment. And every decree she made carried the echo of humanity. Her counsel warned her, "Emotions will destroy the empire." She only replied, "Perhaps they'll save it." Captain Jae-Min Han had become more than a husband. He had become a symbol. To the slaves of the Outer Rings, he was a whisper of rebellion. To the soldiers, a mystery. To the Empress, a mirror, reflecting everything she'd buried under centuries of duty. Yet for all his growing influence, Jae-Min never sought power. He only sought connection. He spoke to her not as a ruler, not as an alien, but as a woman burdened by the weight of eternity. One night, as the two stood before the galactic horizon, Vey'ara asked, "Why do you fight for people who mock you? For worlds that will never thank you?" He looked at her, tired but smiling. "Because that's what humans do. We love even when it's not logical. We fight even when we might lose. It's the only way we stay human." Her eyes shimmered. For the first time in her long reign, she didn't have an answer. Then came the rebellion of the Nine Suns, a massive uprising led by the Zerath Collective. They declared the Orinth throne tainted and demanded the Empress's abdication. Warships filled the skies, burning through the upper atmosphere of Clithera 9. The Empire was surrounded. Her council begged her to abandon the planet, but she refused. "If I run, I lose more than an empire, I lose myself." And Jae-Min? He stood beside her. He wasn't a soldier anymore, not really. He was flesh and blood against fleets of iron. But he had something the others didn't: belief. A raw, stubborn faith that humanity's spirit could outshine any empire's power. "Your weapons are stronger," he told her generals, "but your hearts are weaker. Let me show you how we fight, not with fear, but with meaning." On the eve of battle, he gave a speech broadcast across the Orinth network, a moment historians would one day call the human hour. "Some say I don't belong here," he began, voice steady, echoing through billions of speakers. "They're right. I don't. But neither does fear, neither does hate. You think I'm fragile? You think my species is weak? Then let me tell you what weakness really means. It's being afraid to care. There was silence. Then the Empress herself appeared beside him on the broadcast, her voice trembling with truth. For eons we believed emotion was a disease, she said. But this human showed me. It's the cure. The battle that followed would become legend. The Arinth fought not for conquest but for each other. The humans, though few, stood in the front lines, refusing to retreat. When the flagship of the Xerath fleet aimed its cannons toward the palace, Jae-Min made the impossible choice. He piloted an old Terran fighter, obsolete by Arinth standards, straight toward the heart of the enemy armada. The control tower tried to stop him. The Empress screamed his name across the comms. "Jae-Min, you'll die." He smiled. "Maybe. But if we survive because one human refused to bow, maybe that's enough." The fighter cut through enemy fire, engines burning white-hot. He released the fusion core, creating a shockwave that disabled half the invading fleet without a single nuclear detonation. The human way. Brave. Reckless. Brilliant. When his ship fell burning through the atmosphere, the Empress ordered every vessel to find him. They found him alive. Barely. His body was broken, but his spirit was untouchable. When she saw him again, the Empress didn't care for the eyes of her people. She ran to him, knelt beside him, and whispered, "You foolish, impossible human. You've taught me how to feel." He grinned weakly. "Took you long enough." That single smile changed everything. The Empress decreed a new law, the Pact of Empathy, uniting humans and Arinths as equals, declaring that emotion was not a flaw, but strength. Across the stars, billions heard her final words of the decree. Humanity is not young. Humanity is timeless, because courage has no age and love has no species. Years later, historians would struggle to explain what happened on Clithera 9. How a single forced marriage became the seed of a new interstellar civilization. How one human heart taught an empire to feel. But those who were there didn't need books or data. They remembered the storms, the light, and the moment an Empress held a human's hand and said, "Love is the strongest weapon the stars have ever seen." And somewhere far beyond the clouds, Earth watched, silently proud knowing that one of their own had once again proven the impossible truth. Humans don't just survive the universe. They change it.